And we're back, viewers. Now, I worked into the night yesterday and got most everything done on the engine. I have the throttle body installed, I have the throttle cable installed, I tightened the fasteners on top of the ignition coil and got everything back there. The ignition wires are only temporary for now. I bought a set that was custom fit for a small block Chevy. Mistake, I should have got the cut to fit type to make my own wires. Doesn't matter, they'll still function in order to start this thing up. I've run my PCV line, I've run my vacuum line to the brake booster, and also there is a vacuum line running to the fuel pressure regulator that's right next to that. Eldebrock says that they want you to do that similar to a traditional fuel pressure regulator that you'd find on a regular automobile. It will lower fuel pressure at idle, because you don't really need it then, and raise it as the throttle opens. Everything on the front is done. I've got my heater hoses over here run. Pretty much everything under the hood is done. Before we go to the interior, there's one more thing I want to show you. Here's the air cleaner. This is the intake air temperature sensor. Believe it or not, the system is set up to do that. So it helps calculate fuel mixture based on air density, based on air temperature. Air temperature dictates air density. But anyway, this plug goes into here, and I sort of offset it because I didn't want it to interfere with anything back here. I can plug this in, and I also had to cut this rod to fit. Got that in there. There's a gasket that's going to go in between. So if you want to see the final look, there it is. Ta-da! After getting the throttle cable routed and installed, that means the interior could go together. So I remounted the steering column and put all the stuff in here together. I hope that I don't have any issues with the stuff that I've wired up, but I'm very happy with how my switches and everything have turned out. Like, they look like my mode switch and my cooling fan switch, which is right next to the AC button, which I like, and you can clearly see what's on or off. That's open for the exhaust cutout, that's closed. I'm gonna mount this centerpiece, which I have here. I'll mount this after I epoxy the magnets to this for the ProFlow 4-bit, but that sort of gives you a preview of where we will be when it's all done. All the wires, my USB connection for the stereo and a couple of auxiliary connections are down in there. Also, this will charge my phone when I want it to. Also, you might remember from day one, we had that stereo and we didn't have a whole lot of glove box in here to work with. Now, we've got glove box and cup holders, because I decided not to reinstall that cup holder that was up under the dash. I just wasn't really into it. Although I could, it looks like you can mount it wherever. It looks like I could move it over to this side if I wanted to and mount the cup holder over here. I might decide to do that at a later date. Right now, I just want to get it up and running. With all the under hood stuff done, it's time to install this front fascia or core support for the final time, meaning it's getting bolted in, and then I can connect everything to the radiator, condenser, and my new transmission cooler. So I just have to carefully thread the needle and get the transmission cooler lines through that hole when I put this up on here. But it's going up on there for the last time, and then we'll do the exhaust, and then we'll be able to start it up, I believe. Well, we should probably put fluids in it first, like oil and transmission fluid and coolant. I think it's really good for the engine to have that, especially since it's brand new. Oh, and we'll also pre-oil the engine, or run oil pressure through it before we start it up for the first time. Then we got some software stuff to do. We got a little bit to do, but let's start with this. That was my knee. That popping noise. My design is sound. I wasn't even really paying attention, if I'm honest. And that seemed to go in. One piece at a time, just like the song, right? And you get a hose clamp for that lower hose. So Dad made this for the upper radiator hose so it didn't rub against the fan shroud. And now it's getting repurposed. For me, this is part of this. I'm not trying to erase Dad. I see this as Dad's truck, even though he gave the truck to me. I don't see it that way. To me, it's always going to be his truck. It's so cool, this stuff going in for the last time. I staggered the connectors so that you could only plug them in one way. So you could only plug fan 1 into fan 1, and you could only plug fan 2 into fan 2. and I just realized that I didn't tape that, so I'm going to do that real quick. So one connector goes this way, the other connector goes this way. So there's only one way to plug everything back in. And these were 10 amp connectors, or were they 20 amp connectors? I remember they were high amperage connectors because they took a minute to find. And I couldn't find a 4-pin, so I had to go with 2 2-pin, which I'm fine with. Would have been nice just to have one connector to plug in. There, now it's nice and tidy. Now I'm gonna try the fans. See if my switch on the dash will do the trick. Yeah, I'd say they're pulling some air. Pulling the shirt right off me. Return hose for the heater core is coming up here. I cut it just a little bit long. I think about there should do it. Actually, I could go a little shorter. That's better. Gonna do the AC lines first. That way if I need to move the transmission lines around, I can. Good, it's got O-rings on it. I'm gonna lubricate these with some refrigerant oil before I assemble. Before I put this line in, this is a common thing on Delco AC systems, and this is the orifice valve. And especially, you know, with the kind of work that I've done to this, it lives right here on the condenser, like down inside of here. So just pull it out. There's the orifice tube, which that's not good. I'm glad I've pretty much replaced this whole system, because little pieces of metal inside your AC system, do I have to say that's not good? Because it's not. I'm gonna put a little bit of refrigerant oil around this O-ring before I slide it down in. Done. Not gonna run it all the way down until I get the other side connected, but I don't want this only hanging on by a couple of threads while I'm possibly bending the line a little bit. Hidden underneath here is the final, the inlet or the outlet? That might be the inlet for the evaporator. What idiot designed this thing with this wiring harness right over the top of this? He certainly didn't do us any favors today. Remember I said I was gonna tighten this after? Well, I'm doing it now. All you need to do is crush the O-ring. Don't feel like you have to on AC fittings, because you'll make a leak. You will. So just snug it. Like once it's on there, just give it a little extra turn. Make sure you lube the O-ring. Since we're out here, let's do our lines, which I kind of like how this worked out. Like upper, lower. I want to go get another wrench because these I want a little snug. I don't like how that's rattling on that. So here's an old piece of heater hose. One last AC line. Another custom-made deal. Ohio Hydraulics has really hooked me up. So basically it's new line welded onto the old line. AC's installed. And at last, our overflow. Come on. This radiator cap did not come with this radiator. I purchased it separately. We're gonna be taking it off again anyway. I'm not in love with keeping the charcoal canister, but I didn't really work out a vent, so I'm kind of keeping it for now, and it's gonna vent into the engine compartment, I guess, but I can't have this bracket just flopping around, so I have to tighten it down. But at some point I hope to work out like a different system for the vent, for the tank. But this is here, it's convenient. It's like one of those bird in hand kind of situations. They won't tighten up. So it is what it is. I'm not gonna sweat a whole bunch over a tank vent. Just gonna be happy that I have it. Boom, I have it. But you're only temporary, Mr. Charcoal Canister. Only temporary. I actually got this for the Ford as a way to solve the upper radiator hose problem on that, because the turbo sort of moved things around, and never used it because it didn't work out. But I think here is an ideal place for it to work out. Now it's cut to fit, but we got to get these two ends on. But that will, well, connect everything up. Exciting, right? This is a weird universal fit thing. So in here there's like one size, in here there's like another size, and you can pull these sleeves out. That wasn't helpful at all. Silicone spray, I'm hoping is going to be my friend. Well, that's not going to flow very well. This would have only worked in a truck, because that coming up like that is like way up. It's higher than the air cleaner. So I'm going to go about halfway in here. I'd say here. Worked real good too. That adjustable neck is helpful. Chris Fix is going to be here today. He'll never forgive me for a dirty engine compartment. No, really, he is. His car's in the shop. It's right over there. So is Engineering Explains. Yeah, it's pretty cool. We do stuff together. We're friends. I believe all we need now is an exhaust and fluids. And let's get started on the exhaust. What I'm doing now is I'm putting this back up on here, even though I had already tack welded this back part into place. What I forgot to do, what I forgot to do was to set this up, because this is going to be a little bit different. The clamp on here, I may have to angle it one way or another, and I want to be sure that everything is bolted up and I get it angled and going the way I want it to. So this extra step is necessary. Now made more challenging with transmission lines. I'm going to put the catalytic converter first up in the pecking order here. And the reason I'm doing that is the closer the catalytic converter is to the engine, the better, because it works on how hot it is. So the hotter it is, the better. This is as close as I can put it with this setup. But I do kind of want to see what things will look like with this in place like that. Can you just like hold this here? Yeah. Like this and this clamp, because this isn't welded or anything. V-band. Yeah, I'm just trying to get a feel for where the other is going to be. Oh, and by the way, that's Humble Mechanic. He just, he stopped by to help out. 9 hours. 9 hours just to do this. You're doing great, Charles. You're doing great.
What happens if I rotate this?
It will spin.
Oh, cool.
Oh, so I do need to make sure that that goes up a little bit, or that is gonna rest like right on the flipping bar there.
I hear V-bands are all the jam.
I love V-bands. I used them on the Fairmont extensively, and that worked out well for me. Oh, that's awesome. Okay. But we do need to angle that one up a little bit.
Good.
Somehow. Yeah, you're good. Thank you.
All right, so I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thanks, Charles. Have a safe trip back. I need to put this on here to where it's slightly angled upward, so that when this goes on, that other V-band clamp doesn't interfere with it, or interfere with the transmission cross member. I kind of don't need this whole thing right now. Okay. That should get it where I need it to be. So all that work for that. I'll be running 2 O2 sensors. One will be for the computer, and the other is going to be for my air fuel gauge on the dash. So I'm going to add another bung down here that is after the 2 streams come together. I have marked on the top of this pipe where I'm going to put it. Step 1 is going to be to drill this hole so I can insert this down into here. It's got a little ridge on it. So once I get it to that, just that right size, that should slip down in there. Weld around the outside like this, and I'll have provisions for another O2 sensor. There it is. I have to turn the welder on before I pull the trigger, or else it doesn't work. O2 sensor bung welded in. Done.
So therefore it wouldn't matter. But I feel like if it doesn't have your,
If they didn't give us any
it
guidance.
doesn't have more platinum and palladium on one side versus the other. So
Well, you know, maybe there's a direction of flow. I don't know.
afro. Just weld it.
I am. Now the flange to the cat, which fits like flush, so I want to be sure that it's like perfectly in place when I weld it. Don't move. Ah, you moved. No wonder I can't see. I'm like, why is this so hard to see? And it's not pretty, but it's together. Now I'm just going to do the other side because it's going to happen anyway. But this, oh, you're just making fun of me.
I'm just hanging out.
Yes, you are.
Got nothing to do but talk junk.
All right, I want to keep this so that I know which way is which, and these flanges have like a male and a female side to them, so that they lock together like this. And I'm going to take this is the male side on this side, I'm going to put a female side on the other side, so that when I connect these two things up, I know which way is which, so it'll only go together one way. That's a really long way of saying that. Because that's a pretty big gap. Ugh. I'm going to grind that off and start over, because I don't want to. That being offset's going to do the same thing that I did intentionally to begin with, to try and get this to fit, and I don't want to offset the next thing down the line, so I'm going to grind this off, push it down, re-weld it. It's a really good tack weld. While that cools, we can go and mount the Y pipe back to the truck after we put the O2 sensors in it. Ooh, it's now time for special nuts. First part of exhaust is done. Oh, look at that. Somebody made a wiring harness to where it came down, like right where you need it. Boom. The other one gets connected up top. Oh, that's not good. There's still got to be a clamp there. Can just make it. I'm going to loosen the bottom nuts on here a little bit and then tighten the top nuts. The joint that's up there is like ball and socket kind of thing, so I do have a little wiggle room. At least I hope I do. But with this brace underneath here, it's going to be forcing it up in the direction that I want it to go. That's just a little bit of clearance. I'd be happy with just a little more. Sweet. I can live with that. I got that much clearance now. Whereas before it was resting right on top of it. I'm not going to tighten it all up until the very end. All right, there is excellent. Okay, I'm just going to weld this one on. Truth is, I could probably just put a couple of turn downs on that and call it done. Yeah, so I'm worried about this pipe coming out and hitting this shock. Bolt this part together and then get it up on there. The sounds of eating in the background is Humble Mechanic having his lunch. He's having Chinese. Maybe he'll share an egg roll with you. I'm just doing this one too. I was expecting this to end up in a different place, but I'll sort it out. Just put you here for now. You can put the gloves on backwards, which isn't a bad thing because don't use the welding gloves over on the wire wheel because, well, stuff can happen. Maybe it's time for a new set of welding gloves. I don't know. Say 14.5 should nail it. Maybe I should have just checked this before I weld this all together. Although the muffler moves back and forth, so even if my measurement's a little bit off, so what? My hangers will make up the difference. Well, that there's some good measuring. Good measuring. Nailed it. Hangers, we're done. Totally made that. Well, not the pipes, but bringing them all together to make exhaustiness. I'm gonna make my hangers now. I've got this piece of steel. It just happens to fit in where the old hanger location was, and I've marked it. This is only the start of what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut this right here, and I'll show you what I'm doing next. Now I'm gonna put a 90-degree bend in this that matches up with the same width as this. Now witness the power of my fully operational workstation. So this matches this now. I'm gonna bring it down, don't know. All I really need is the top. Unless I have to weld it better. No, we'll just bring it down to about here. This is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Because if I just put this rod in here, it would just fall back and forth inside of this hole, and I don't want it to do that. This piece of metal fits in here perfectly. I can put this anywhere I want and weld it into place, which is what I'm about to do. I'm going to weld it towards one of those edges. I'm going to cut it right here and then weld it actually to the muffler itself, like up on this part of the flange. So I'll come in from the back side, just put a little tack weld on there, and that should be my hanger. It should hold it. Hanger. Ow, it's still hot. Yeah, it's not quite my vision because I want them to be able to put a pipe over top of this. I'm requesting a do-over. Probably should let it cool. It's too hot, it's just gonna melt the rubber. That is a solidly mounted exhaust onto a rubber hanger. Now it's time to fill up some fluids. I'm going to start with power steering, so don't forget. I have power steering fluid and not a whole lot, so hopefully it's enough. But this isn't really a big system. Whoa, that is sucky. Upon the recommendation of my machinist, I just bought this from him. He's recommended just straight 30 weight oil. The only thing that's retained from the original engine was the block.
Okay.
It's now a 383 stroker.
You gave it all the heads.
AFR heads at that.
Probably all be here about the same time.
I can't tell if that's registering or not. It looks like it's full.
It looks like it's full. I wasn't asking in a judgmental way.
Wasn't interpreting it as a judgmental way, but yes.
Curious.
Yes.
Curious.
Yes. Yes.
I have questions. I'm asking all the questions.
You ask questions.
I like to ask questions.
Now this is going to be a minute. Oops, sorry. Monster Transmission hooked me up with a lot of this burn rubber fluid. Ooh, it's got a distinctive odor. And they said I'm probably going to need 14 quarts. So I'll be here a bit. Can you keep an eye on that petcock and make sure that it's closed? Down at that bottom right there.
Yes.
Anything coming out?
Nope.
Should be good.
The names for things are funny.
I agree. You know where the term cockpit comes from?
No. I mean, I know where I think of it from, but
Where do you think of it from?
I'd rather not say.
Okay. Yeah, okay. I understand. It comes from World War I when they first started flying.
Yeah.
And some of the pilots would crash in farmers' fields, and the farmers would come out and see basically the remains that was...
Of their pet chickens?
The remains of the pilots after they crashed. It was so bloody and gory that it reminded them of a cockfighting pit.
Ah.
So it's nice
So
to know.
they didn't use chickens to plug leaks and things or anything like that? No? Okay, that's what I was thinking in case anybody thought otherwise.
See anything leaking anywhere?
I just can't stop staring at your cock.
Well, like, you can look around for other leaks. Like, just
Okay.
poke your head up under there and see if there's anything leaking. This full strength that I poured a gallon in, and I'm mixing it with a gallon of water. And no, I'm not using distilled water, and you can yell at me for that, but if you want to run to the store and get me some, go right ahead.
Take a look. Yeah, I don't see any new leaks.
Is that one still leaking out the tail shaft?
Not that I can see.
We just had a major transmission fluid leak. As I was filling it up, I was told that this takes 14 quarts. So I'm filling it up and I'm on quart 9 going on 10, and fluid just starts dumping out of the transmission onto the floor. Turns out, well, when we checked on the dipstick was way overfilled. So my suspicion is that there was still a lot of fluid in it when I filled it up, because it was coming out the vent tube on the top of the transmission. And out of the tail shaft, because I took the seal out of the slip yoke. So that's a thing apparently. So if you have a slip yoke on the back of your well, make sure that that seal is in there. If not, you got to make one.
You could call that tech tip of the day.
Yeah. Watch out for your slip yoke. All right. We found the threshold. I think that was 4 gallons. This is gallon 4. I know I put 3 in. Please don't ever have a leak. And I'm going to do the overflow.
Is there a coolant temp sensor back there?
No, both of them are up front. This is an oil pump priming tool, so this will actually engage with the drive of the oil pump. I'll be able to spin the oil pump and create oil pressure in the engine and make sure that the engine is all lubricated before I start it up for the first time. And this one has a special attachment so that you're sure to lubricate the top end. So it has a very specific profile for doing just this. Apparently the other ones would cause leaks or something. There it is. Okay. Just need to get my drill. Couldn't you have made this a little longer, guys? Okay, cool. Now I'll plug in the battery and we'll turn the ignition on, and so we can observe oil pressure. And when we see that we've got oil pressure, we'll run it for a little bit. There was a small coolant leak right up here that all it took was tightening up a couple of these 2 fasteners, but it was leaking out of here for a second. Now I'll run this until we can see some oil pressure. I think that should be sufficient.
Nice. Coolant.
We address that.
I think that's all just coolant.
Okay.
Unless it's dripping directly onto your oil dry already, or not dripping to the ground. That's all I can see.
Now that I've primed the oil, next step is I'm going to get the distributor in place. This is number 1 cylinder. The engine is still in time. It never moved out of time. I should be able to just drop this in. And I'm going to leave it somewhat loose because I believe part of this is that I've got to set the timing to 12 degrees. Just try to find the right size socket for that. I need to figure out where to set my fuel pressure, and once I've got that sorted, I've got to get into the computer, poke my tablet a little bit. I've already done a software update on this, so that was the first thing I did actually before I even got to this point. So you might need to do that if you're installing a ProFlow 4 system. Let's get to that, figure out what fuel pressure is, set that, get things set up on the tablet, and well, I think we're ready to start this. I think. I hope. That is somewhere under 50, so maybe that's safe. Yeah, I got about 45 on it right now. I'm putting a HalGuard fire extinguisher in the truck. I learned my lesson with the Fairmont Condon Fire. This time though, this one is not a chemical fire extinguisher. It is more expensive, but I won't have to spend all that time cleaning up should I ever have to put out a fire. I'm going to keep this handy during startup because Charles remembered we should do that.
This is better. Just kidding. Let's face it, it's a low-hanging fruit.
I've got the Red X right now, but we've talked to each other in the past, so hopefully. Yep, boom. I just touched it. The engine icon up here had a red X in it. I just touched it and now it's got a check mark by the engine. It means I'm connected. So that part's ready to go. So I believe I'm going to set up Wizard.
Yes.
Also
Start the wizard.
Also, the other thing is, you'll notice this says firmware 53. Mine was actually 50 when I started, so I've already updated the firmware before I got to this point. So if you do have a firmware update, you can go in and do this without setting up the engine or anything first. Setup Wizard.
You will need a screwdriver and timing light to complete the setup wizard.
Timing light is already connected. So I just go through and
Start the wizard.
start the Wizard. Let's go, Wizard.
That's what I say when I wake up in the morning. Start the wizard.
Continue will reset the Wizard. Do you want to continue? Yes. Select the firing order. Standard 184-65372. That's it. Okay. Cubic inch displacement is 383. I gotta go figure out my cam.
This is probably the reference to the fuel as well, because those
Yeah,
stockpile race
my cam specs. There's a thing over there, comp cams.
paper.
Maybe. BRB. All right, I'm above stock, so I'm gonna go with mild.
You said it was 383.
Yeah.
Okay, 381.
Do they want the 58 or 43? The injector size are white.
It says 29 or 35 are your choices. Well, it says stock is 43. Well, that's, I guess, changes for the...
I've got it at about 45. So I'm just gonna,
Just set it at that. And
I've got it at that for now. I can always go back and change it. That's the beauty of these electronic things. Fuel injector, ProFlow, I only got one choice and that's 35 pounds an hour. So that's the choice. All right, it's loading the base map.
Wizard will automatically start loading the base map. When map is finished loading, you will be prompted to turn the ignition off for 12 seconds and then back on. Click OK to close the pop-up and click the right arrow to proceed. Once it's done, it looks like. Oh, here we go. It's right here. White injectors are 29 pounds. So...
We're already past that.
Well, just so you know, it's 29,
All right.
which means...
Prepare to start your engine, important, 0%.
You'll probably want to change that to 58. 381 to 405, mild, 29.
So
But that shouldn't matter for
I
this
need to crank it
first
up to
fire.
58 PSI?
That's what I am interpreting this as.
All right, well, how come this thing isn't loading? It's like 0% and just sitting there.
Do not start the engine or drive until prompted to.
It's doing nothing.
Yeah, nothing, yeah.
I mean, I'm not even seeing a progress bar. Just turn it on and leave it on so I can do the pressure. Yeah, go ahead.
He's on.
I'm bang on at 58 PSI. Probably should lock that down before I forget. Now it's just suddenly decided to do something else. Alderock, ProFlow 4, key on, U off. Engine, setup wizard. Start the wizard. Yes, we're starting over. Standard firing order. Cubic inch displacement, 383. Mild, 58 PSI. You said I had 29 pound per hour?
Correct.
The white ones? Okay. So I have the white injectors that are 29 pounds per hour. Ugh. Well, I'm not going to mess with it this time. I'm just going to let it sit and go grab a drink of water or something.
Smoke break.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay. I'm assuming the tablet's fully charged up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You need to speak with an EFI tech. Your call came to my desk because they're either away from their desk or on other calls. I tech out our core product like cylinder heads and camshafts, that sort of thing.
Understood.
And the phone system does that instead of, so it doesn't just hang up on you. What I can do is take down your information and shoot an email to one of the techs and have them give you a call back. What's your first name?
My first name is Eric.
You called the other day.
I did. And now I'm ready to start
Did
the
you not get
engine.
call back?
Oh no, I mean I got that part sorted out because really the issue with that is the serial number for the ECU, which we finally figured out. But now it's a completely different issue. which is the fact that it won't load a map onto this computer.
Okay. Yeah, I'll shoot that out in an email right now. And is this the best number to reach you at, Eric?
Yes.
Okay. You'll hear from somebody in just a little bit.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
It's bad when they know your name.
Comes up, it says ProFlow 4. I got P F4-V053-HDR. And right. Yes, sir. And I still have, down at the bottom, I just saw the progress bar. It's sticking at 0%. I am now. Yeah. I bet. No. Oh, I got 1-2%. Oh, we're starting to load now. But now that I've got a progress bar and everything, and then load firmware. So I'm just going through the process again. Okay. All right, load. All right, sorry. I guess we're gonna have to go through the conversation again. Yeah, it said ProFlow 4. And now I got a progress bar that's going now. Load map. Click that. Okay. Check mark. Okay. My maps, ProFlow 4. Got it. ProFlow 4. 5009. Got it. Got it. Load it. Yeah, okay. We're good. Please. Yeah. Yep, got it. It is. It's already almost 40%. Gotcha. I'll keep an eye out for that. I'm paying attention this time. And back on. And then press finish. Oh wait, I don't have a. All right. All right. All right. Hey, it sure did. Okay. Got it. Got it. 47.4, which is weird. Okay. I have to say something to camera real quick before I do. I'm on the phone with Peter from Eldebrock, who's walked me through how to load this whole thing up, and he says I can start it up for the first time right now. So we're gonna do that because I've waited a long time for this, and so have you. So thank you, Peter. All right, let's fire this thing up. Hang on, let me get the peanut gallery also. Hey guys, I'm about to start this up for the first time. It's like just about going on the short tooth.
Eric said this is the first time he's ever started his truck.
All right.
I said he's going to do this.
All right, here we go, guys. And keep an eye out for leaks. We good? Yeah. On my gauge, it's a little bit low. Looks like at 50, I gotta raise it up a little. Okay. Well, this is a brand new engine. I'm just gonna let it idle for a second. All right. Okay, right now it's got it. Okay. It's at 50. Thank you so much for your help. All right, take care. All right, bye. Yes! I think, yeah, good. They're opening the garage door. That's a good thing. Got an exhaust leak. And I need to set the timing. Or just see where it's at. I want to hear what it sounds like with the exhaust cut out. That's cool. There's obviously more work to do, but my friends are here and I got stuff to do. So I got it running, gonna get it to be able to move around the shop. I still have a few days before the power tour to fix some things like that exhaust leak and some of the other stuff that's going on.
You don't have friends, Eric.
But I don't have friends. Anyway, be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you later. Bye. Links in the description for stuff. And thank you, Elderbrock, and thank you, Summit Racing. Before I close the video out, I want to touch on a couple of things. The Eric the Car Guy that you saw hadn't slept in weeks. I've been working on the truck nonstop for a very long time to try to get it ready for the power tour. In fact, the whole truck came together between February and May. And in fact, the date that I started the truck up for the first time was really close to the Indy 500. That's why all my friends showed up. Humble Mechanic, Matt Moran, Chris Fix, and Engineering Explained. Thanks to those guys for being in the video. Anyway, a few things I wanted to touch on. One of those things was venting the charcoal canister into the engine compartment. In the end, I didn't do that, and I may show that in a future video, but I actually ran a tube from the charcoal canister down in behind the front turn signal headlight area, so it's outside of the engine compartment. Now, as far as the drive shaft goes, that I ended up taking my old drive shaft, as I mentioned in the video, back to Cincinnati Driveline and had them fit it to the proper length. I took a measurement from the tail shaft of the transmission all the way back to the front yoke of the differential and gave them that measurement to use in order to size my drive shaft correctly. They did so. I got it in there. It fits a lot nicer. Speaking of the drive shaft, you might have questions of what I was talking about the slip yoke. And the slip yoke is that joint that connects the drive shaft to the back of the transmission. It slips back and forth in and out of the back of the transmission as the rear end articulates, the suspension moves up and down. I'm thinking about doing a video about that at some point in the future, about that vent hole that's in that slip yoke. I'm not going to get into that now, but what had happened was I think I got an air pocket or something in the transmission while I was filling it. I think I was trying to fill it too fast. As a result, it started leaking out of a lot of places, including the vent tube on top of the transmission, but eventually that got sorted out and transmission fluid got set to the proper level. One more tip real quick on the exhaust that I welded all together, and I got this from my exhaust shop, which is Flowtech. They're on 42 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Really great guys, and they've done the exhaust on the Fairmont, and they finished the exhaust here on the truck, which I'll show you at a later time. Anyway, after completing those welds, one of the things that they did, or they showed me, was using VHT header paint and painting those welded areas that help keep corrosion down and help the pipes last longer. It's one of the things that they said, one little tip that they shared with me that I'll share with you now. So if you're welding exhaust together, consider painting those welded joints and they may last longer. And at the end, I was talking to Peter from Elderbrock, which thank you so much, Peter. You really helped me and walked me through that. But to give you a little more insight into what was happening there, I was on the phone, so I wasn't really in a place where I was going to do exposition to camera. But what had happened was I was trying to load the base map onto the computer so that I could start the truck. Well, it wouldn't load. I did everything according to the instructions and it wouldn't load. And what Peter was walking me through was how to manually load that map into the system. And eventually that's what overcame the issue that I was having. I was able to load the map and we were able to move on. But special thanks to Peter from Elderbrock for helping me through all that. The astute viewer may have noticed that when I had the gauge cluster set up or the monitor pulled up, you might have seen the air fuel ratio being stuck at like 10 something. and scratched her head about that. Well, Peter was also asking about that, which is why he had me check fuel pressure, and one of the things he was asking me about during those scenes, well, I'd forgotten to plug in the air fuel sensor, which is actually up underneath over by the coolant reservoir. I'd forgotten to plug that in, and that's the reason why it was pegged at that level. He was asking me to check fuel pressure, which another note on fuel pressure is when you have the vacuum line plugged in at idle, fuel pressure will be lower. That's why it's designed that way. So instead of the 58 psi that it was when I set everything up, it was at the 50 or so psi with the vacuum line plugged in at idle because it was getting a vacuum signal. And I believe that covers all the stuff that I can think of for now, so I won't keep you for too much longer. There still are a few more loose ends to tie up before Dad actually drives the truck for the first time, which I do have footage of and I will be making a video about. We are getting closer to the end of the truck series, sort of. There's still a few more things. I mean, hot rods are never done. Those of you that have done it know that. But I was successful in getting this to run and drive before the power tour, but after this video that you just watched, I ended up going to the Indianapolis 500 with all of my friends there that I talked about earlier. I'll link that video down in the description. It was pretty cool. It was a really great experience. Anyway, if you have automotive questions, I ask that you head to EricTheCarGuy.com. Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. Share it with your friends. Show them how cool Eric the Car Guy is. Anyway, be safe, have fun, stay dirty. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.